The Egyptian protests are back. It keeps going back and forth. First, I thought Mubarak was out when the military stepped in and removed the pro-Mubarak forces. And I remember I tweeted it out. I was like, oh my God, I think he's going. And then Mubarak bunkered down. He said, I'm in the palace. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay here for 7 months. And it looked like he was going to wait him out. And this morning, I was like, I don't know. I think maybe Mubarak's going to win out here. And then, all of a sudden, out of nowhere today, Wael Ghonim. He's the guy who put together a Facebook page that got over 400,000 people interested in these protests. He was basically kidnapped by the Egyptian police, held blindfolded for 12 straight days. He comes out of jail, gives an incredible, inspiring speech, and the place goes nuts. Today, Egyptians loudly rejected the government's approach to change. The BBC reporting the largest protest yet in Egypt. The Associated Press reports 250,000 people in Tahrir Square today. Egypt's vice president warned that the protests cannot be allowed to continue for a long time, otherwise he would lose his job and be tossed out on his ass. Now, meanwhile, LA Times reports the Obama administration is, of course, backing off of calling for immediate reform in Egypt. Schwang, wang, wang. I mean, come on, man. Just when the protesters get warmed up, the Obama administration comes in and says, no immediate reform. And they even warned on Monday that a precipitous exit by Mubarak could set back the democratic transition. Now, you tell me how that makes any sense. Oh, we can't have the dictator leave because then we would set democracy back? That doesn't make no kind of sense. That's the administration saying, hey, you know what? It looks like he's going to survive. We're going to throw in our lot with the dictator we've been going with all this time. Look, right now we're at a point, we're at a half a revolution. And you see the swings going back and forth. So the question is, what can make the difference? I got the answer for you. It's called money. Look, the difference between the trade embargo that we hit South Africa with during apartheid and the difference between Iraq when we hit them with sanctions when Saddam Hussein was still in charge is that there were different sets of people that it was affecting. When you did it in Iraq and it was just Saddam Hussein, he was like, yeah, whatever, who cares, right? When you did it in South Africa, there was a ruling class that was wider, and they said, well, I don't like losing money. And when they got unhappy about losing money, they told the apartheid government, you better step, get. And we got reform. Now, in Egypt, the ruling class is the upper branch of the military, the political class, and the business establishment. Those are the guys we have to influence. And what is the demand of this ruling class in Egypt?
We want the money, Labotsky.
That about sums it up. And Mubarak's been able to deliver the money to them better than the other guys have. So, and how did he do that? It's because Mubarak is rumored to have $40 to $70 billion. Do you know how many private jets he has? He's a fleet of 9 Gulfstream jets worth over $110 million. And you know who paid for that? The United States government paid for it. In other words, U.S. taxpayers paid for not just 7 or 8, that would have never done, 9 private jets. And how do we do it? Partly through the $28 billion in aid we've given to Egypt since 1975. But that's also a good thing. Now, how is that a good thing? We're funneling all this money in. Because through that money, we have influence. If we wanted to, we say to those military leaders that are critical, hey, I could give you the $1.3 billion a year that I give to the Egyptian army every year, or maybe I don't give it to you. Look, unless we cut that money off, we're playing patty cakes. Okay, they're not going to listen to reason. They're not going to be like, oh, that's a swell argument, Vice President Biden, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. I had not thought of that. No, they want the money. Look, this is what the Egyptian army will still say no matter what.
We don't care. We still want the money, Labotsky.
Now we're having fun. Look, that's where the rubber hits the road. And so we can help by starting to cut off that money to the Egyptian army to create real pressure on them. But the protesters can also help. You know, it's not just going into the streets. I got to be honest with you. If they went into the banks, they went into the businesses, they went into the stock market peacefully, and they just sat down and said, look, we're not going to let you to continue to make money off this tyranny, off this dictatorship. It could make all the difference. If you don't hit them where it hurts, their pocketbook, you're never going to get people entrenched in power to agree to change.